Cedric Maxwell podcast is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
All right, it's another episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. I'm Josue Pavon. He is Cedric Maxwell. Max, the Boston Celtics, finishing up the regular season on a high note, if you ask me. You got the Celtics rolling. Finished off a 3-game homestand. Back on the road for Milwaukee, but then coming right back home to close out the regular season. And Monday got off to a good note because Kristaps Porzingis was just named the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. And on the West Coast, it was Kyrie Irving named Western Conference Player of the Week. And also, you got Jaylen Brown hitting a career milestone with 10,000 points in the Celtics' win against the Trailblazer on Sunday. But first thing first, Max, I want to get into this possibility of the Boston Celtics tying the 08 Celtics with a 66-16 record. Now, they win out the rest of their games. That is certainly on the line. But my question to you, Max, before we get started, how close is this team compared to that one? Because I got this question on the radio on WEEI over the weekend, and I thought it was really interesting because there's different ways you can break it down. Obviously, you can't say, how close they are into the playoffs, right? We got to wait and see how this thing unfolds. But just on paper, or just of what you've seen so far, how do you think these guys measure up?
It's a good team. I mean, it's a good team, and obviously it could be a great team. Difference is right now is that, they're going to get more points. They're going to get more points because they shoot more threes. And they're always going to knock down more threes, even if they shoot a smaller percentage, because that's where the game has evolved to. You remember Kevin Garnett was a mid-range jump shooter. He wasn't a three-point threat. He wasn't stepping out like that. You had Ray, you had Paul, you had Posey, you had Eddie House. Those were your three-point shooters. But everybody else was in the paint. So the game is played completely different. To measure those two teams against each other, it's unfair. People are going to do it, but it's unfair because the game is so different. The way it's played and the pace of the game. Joe Mazzulla talks about touches. I mean, during the Paul Pierce era, could you imagine somebody said touches? I mean, Kevin Garnett was one of the most unselfish guys around. He always was trying to pass it to Paul and Ray.
Doc had to tell him to shoot.
Yeah, had to tell him to shoot. He didn't want the last shot. So, I mean, wow, it's crazy. And, you bring something up. What the hell is going on in Milwaukee right now? I mean, losing the games they lost, losing to Washington, losing to Toronto. I mean, these are games they don't necessarily need, but they need a confidence builder going into the playoffs. I don't think anybody's afraid right now of Milwaukee, considering the way they're playing. And Doc Rivers doesn't seem to have that swagger he normally has when he has a really good team behind him.
Yeah, no, that's facts, Max. Especially after the one game over the past week, where he's talking about how the entire organization, essentially different departments that have to step up and all get on the same page going into the playoffs. It's just like, wait a minute, Doc, we're talking about basketball here. You know what I mean? That's your department, and I think it was kind of I don't want to say he was throwing people even under the bus, but it was just sort of saying like, this whole season since before the All-Star break, and if it's a personnel thing, if it's just trying to find the rhythm, or whatever the case may be, I mean, stick to basketball. I just thought it was really
here's the thing,
off-brand for Doc to do that. I mean, I know he had his moments in LA, but this wasn't it.
Yeah, he chose this. He chose this job. He was comfortably seated, in a booth where he could talk about the games. But when you decide you're going to get back into that line of fire, man, all bets are off on what's going to happen and how you're going to be played. You're going to be judged on the games. J.J. Redick started out, just really calling out Doc Rivers about his team. But Doc has done nothing really to change people's opinion because this team has played. They have not been great. And the Celtics have many times they've been great, but the Milwaukee Bucks have not been great, considering the fact that this is supposed to be a team that Dame Lillard came to, and all the bettors said, well, Milwaukee right now, odds-on favorite to win. I wonder what those same people are betting right now, when you think about Milwaukee and how they've been playing.
Yeah, man. Talk about an organization that just completely overlooked how advanced the rest of the Eastern Conference is, right? I mean, and what I mean by that is, like, everyone was gearing up during the offseason and making moves and putting their roster in shape, bringing in role guys, like the Pacers. Look at, teams across the East that sort of up on the radar, and they've hung around for a reason because they have depth, whether it's, connectivity, whether it's just the overall finding that rhythm, whatever it takes, like that's kudos to the front office for putting those rosters together. The Milwaukee Bucks, I feel like, have these lens where they're just thinking, let's get a team that's similar to the championship team with a Dame Lillard, and we'll be all right. And that wasn't it. That wasn't it, man. Dame Lillard was going to answer all your questions. That just wasn't going to be the solution for every single problem you have.
Dame is going to answer some of your questions offensively when Giannis is not going. But other than that, defensively, they become a much softer team because nobody's ever going to say he's Drew Holiday defensively. Right. So I think you look at their team right now and collectively as a unit, there are a lot of pieces that are missing. And you hear a lot of unrest if it's not from, nipping stuff from Giannis, but stuff from Bobby Portis about, how this team isn't playing well and So it's just kind of strange at this time of the year. When you should be going on the uptick, you should be flying high. This team right now doesn't see that Milwaukee team's be kind of descending. Like they're coming in for a landing before they even take off.
Episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast is powered by Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less and 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 sports app. This week on Prize Picks, I'm selecting Derek White for more than 4.5 assists and Kristaps Porzingis for more than 8.5 rebounds. It's that easy. Download the app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit up to $100. That's CLNS for a first deposit up to $100. Download Prize Picks today and make sure you use the promo code CLNS.
You never give the keys to the asylum to one of the inmates. You don't do that.
Inmates running the asylum.
Yeah. And I think that when you look at basketball in its totality, the players are the inmates. The players are the guys who are there working day and night. Yeah, right. Do they need some input? Yes, they do. But sometimes their calls aren't the best calls. I mean, sometimes people in the front office are making better calls because it's your buddy, because it's your friend. What happened with the Westbrook thing when LeBron, everybody said, oh my God, Westbrook is going right now to the Lakers. He's going to be this, he's going to be that. They couldn't wait to take a dump on that man. They couldn't wait. And then once he left, it's like, he was a problem. And then you look at this team and there's still some gaping holes. So, if you're Giannis right now, you have to take responsibility for some of the things that have happened because you were the one to force the issue. You made this team do something. Drew Holiday essentially said, hey, I was sitting in the house. I had just did a podcast and I said something about Buck for life. And within 24 hours, I'm traded. I'm going someplace else. So your loyalty to your players, about, oh my God, the players aren't loyal to their teams. They're not loyal. Screw the teams. You better be thinking about yourself and your situation. Yeah, Ray Allen made one of the best moves around. I'm looking at him over your back shoulder. Ray Allen made one of the best moves around. When he left the Celtics. Celtics were trying to trade him or diminish his role. Everybody said, well, Celtics wanted to offer him more money. They might have. But first of all, you had to look where his minutes were going to be diminished. I mean, you already have Avery Bradley starting, and then you went out and you got Jason Terry to come in as a backup. So
yeah, people forget that Terry signing happened before Ray made the decision.
So Ray is thinking like, well, where and how am I going to be playing when the Celtics will tell you later on, like, we offer Ray more money. Well, initially, Ray felt like he got slapped in the face. So, Ray decided to make a move. That's a guy we need to get back on too. He was really good. I think last time he was a little off kilter when he got into the whole Ime Udoka thing and how the Celtics could have kept that hush hush. No, you can't, Ray. You can't keep shit hush hush now. It's like going to somebody. Yeah, like going to somebody's house and then you're going, did somebody got some on their shoes? It's like, did you walk through some dog poop or something when you came in? It's like, dude, you can't hide anything these days.
That's the old school mentality, man.
That's the only time I thought Ray was off. But we have to talk to Ray because got to get him on about UConn. Is UConn ready to become a dynasty again?
I just saw a picture with him and
are they going to be
Rip and Okafor and all the OGs, all the UConn legends. They all took a picture together. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. He was there for the game.
Yeah, I can imagine. Guys there for the game. So I mean, that's really cool stuff. But yeah, that's a timeline that nobody wants to visit when they look at players being traded and moved around. It happens. Trust me, I was one of them. You get moved around, not necessarily because you want to go, but because you don't fit their scenario anymore, how things should be done. 1986 team that the Celtics won it with Kevin McHale starting. I had no problem with that, coming off the bench. But there were some people in the organization felt like I was going to be disruptive. So they decided that, look, the best thing to do is move this dude. You got to realize Kevin McHale said one of the best things I've ever heard anybody say about me. He said, when he started, he said, I felt like, because we were really close before that, but he said when he started to start, when I got hurt and it looked like I wasn't going to be coming back and he was going to be a starter, he said to me, I really felt funny around Cedric because, here I was and he wasn't playing. And then later on, he said, man, he gave me the best compliment. He said, Cedric was very supportive. He was in my corner. He was the first person there to tell me this, that, or the other. But that's what happens with real players. You have to understand that everybody's time is going to revolve. Even when Joel, your brother, was on top playing basketball against you all the time, eventually that shit was going to revolve and you were going to start beating Joel. And, Joel, could Joel take it after that? Joel, can you take that smoke after your brother beats you, your little brother beats you? Or is it just going to be, Do you remember the day you beat Joel for the first time?
Oh, absolutely. He wanted to run it back immediately. Like, as if it was going to erase time. You know what I mean? As if like a rematch and him winning would eliminate that ever happened. And like, all right, man, we can run it back, but I still beat you, right? It's like, now, guess what happened, Max?
I can see.
He beat me, and I said, "Hey, Joel, that was a great game, but hey, remember when I beat you?" Like, it's like you can't change what just happened. Like,
well, I tell you what, I guarantee you got tortured for the next week or two. Whatever he could do to get at your ass, he must just brutalize you for a week.
Oh man, or that, or silent treatment.
Yeah, but
brothers, we don't like that.
Yeah, but I think this team, if you look at them, what the Celtics are doing right now, this has been remarkable. Here's the thing I think is so cool, Joe, that right now that you can find your coach of the Boston Celtics able to screw around with the game and try to experiment with it because you're not losing any ground. The game the Celtics almost lost when he had the starters stay in. It was a 19-2 run. We had those starters stay in, and he finished the game. Joe Mazzulla was confident that these starters, that this is going to be valuable minutes for Patriots and guys like that. Last night's game, same way.
They came correct against the Trailblazers.
Game. Like, okay, let's run this thing. Let's do this. Let's do it again. And those guys were able to hold on and win. Here's the thing that's going to happen. How many players you think are going to Milwaukee are going to be playing against the Bucks tomorrow night?
Starters, maybe 2 or 3.
Okay. And what does the NBA have to say about that?
I mean,
you mean what?
The way these guys have been on the injury report, one of them's got to play. One of the Jays got to play, and then they're good. No fines. So
why do both the Jays have to play?
because that's what the NBA implemented their new rule, right? What is it, primetime players or all-star players? I guess one of them has to play. But I mean, if Missoula sits him, then I'm okay with that as well. But I'll tell you this much, though. It was encouraging to see Jaylen back out there on Sunday night against the Portland Trailblazers. Brown became the 61st player in NBA history to score 10,000 points at the age of 27. He's very cool.
Here's the thing. When I did it 25 years ago or 30 years ago, however long it was, I did it, scored my 10,000 point. I think I was like the 56th player in league history to do that. And it was this huge milestone that, that people were just trying to get to. 10,000 points was huge. And I see Jaylen get to it. And there's no offense at all. None. I applaud him. But it's so much easier now to get to 10,000 than it was during the 80s because of the three-point shot. You're going to get greater opportunities to score the basketball. So it makes it easier. I appreciate it. I'm not hating on him. I acknowledge his accomplishment, but it's not what it was to do that particular thing anymore when it comes to scoring 10,000 points.
Right. No, that's a good point, Max, especially when you see how many of these guys are just climbing up the all-time three-point shots or three-pointers made list on the Celtics. It's just like, man, a lot of these legends or guys that came, I mean, obviously Ray's going to be there for a while, but other legends, you're going to start knocking them off because, the way they're shooting, the volume of three-point shots nowadays, a Celtic who had, let's say, I don't know, a 7-year career, it's not even going to be close.
The only one that's going to put it out there so far to me right now, God, and maybe somebody does it, but LeBron James is the only where he's at point wise. I don't see anybody getting there for a long time, unless they start implementing a 4-point play, because he's just stretching it out. The kid has played since he was 18 years old, and he's almost 40 now. That's Max, the one player that comes to my mind that I think who is that? It's going to be good. Who?
Jason Tatum.
Luka?
Tatum. A couple of reasons, Max. My man has seen the playoffs his entire career. First of all, a lot of deep playoff.
But Jason Tatum,
and the 3-point shot. He's a perennial 3-pointer.
Yeah, he is. But Jason Tatum did not, in his early career, he didn't get those kind of touches and those kind of minutes. When LeBron stepped on the court the first time,
couple of years,
LeBron was your primary scorer. Jason Tatum might have got it second, third year when he started.
Third year after Kyrie left.
LeBron has a head start on him. And how long can he play until he's 39?
Right.
I mean, LeBron's going up with, I don't know, some number which is ungodly.
This episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast is powered by Factor Meals. Eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Also discover more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. What are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up for your springtime goals. Get chef-prepared meals on the table in 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals so you can get back to doing what you love this spring. Look out for the Earth Month Eats badge on the menu for our lowest carbon footprint meals. Head to factormeals.com/Cedric50 and use the code Cedric50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code Cedric50 at factormeals.com/Cedric50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. That's factormeals.com/Cedric50 and use the promo code Cedric50.
There you go. Congrats to the Hall of Famers.
All of them. Here's a small can of Pepsi for all of you, okay? I'm not a hater. Again, I'm going to congratulate that. Chauncey Billups, something could be say for him. Multiple champion, finals MVP, nickname Mr. Big Shot. Yeah, I give him that. Michael Cooper, never made an all-star team, was probably all defensive player. I like Michael Cooper. I really like Michael Cooper, but I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to insult him, but I don't see Michael Cooper as an all-star. I don't see him as Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer, okay, yeah.
There's no hate on him at all. No hate at all. But I just don't see him as a Hall of Famer. And somebody was saying, well, now it opens it up that much more to other guys to get in. I'll never see myself as a Hall of Famer. And maybe the only MVP that I remember that's out there right now might be Iguodala, who was the Finals MVP. That isn't in the Hall of Fame, and he could possibly get there because he's won multiple championships, right, and all defensive and all this and that. So I don't know. It's kind of a interesting byline how this thing is going.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that, Max, to be honest with you. I mean, the fact that he never made an all-star team and, a lot of these guys coming in, I feel like every year or every couple of years or so, there's sort of that debate as to like, man, are they just going to let everyone in, or at least obviously not everyone, but the way they're saying it is like, oh, it's not a whole lot of criteria to it nowadays. I don't know if it's necessarily a popularity contest or what exactly, but yeah, that surprises me, and it should open the door for guys like you. Let's be honest here. Finals MVP, 2 rings as well, a vital part or piece of those championship runs. And you look at other guys as well, and you're thinking to yourself, man, most of these guys, they've been close to an all-star, you know what I mean? Or like, that part really does surprise me, that Cooper, because I think of another Hall of Famer, or maybe someone can put something in the comment section, or I don't know, I can't think of another Hall of Famer that never made an all-star team and is now going to the Hall. So I was surprised too.
Yep. I get no hating on it, but again, this is our opinion. This is my opinion, Michael Cooper. If it gets to you, my opinion. And there's no hate on you. Congratulations on becoming a Hall of Famer, but I didn't see you being a Hall of Famer. And maybe I'll have that discussion with you one day. Somebody bring this to the table, and you and I can go back and forth. But in the meanwhile, what they can't do, they can't take it away from you. Now, once you're there, you're there. So, again, congratulations.
Well, while we're on the topic of the Basketball Hall of Fame, Max, a former Celtic, former point guard, and Rajon Rondo called it a career officially last week. And another person who's sort of on that bubble with some guys in terms of like, is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not? I'm going to ask you. You think Rajon Rondo makes it eventually?
Why?
2 championships, won the all assists. He led the league in assists. What was it, a couple of years?
Rajon Rondo was a tremendous player for the Celtics. But also tell me, in the first championship the Celtics won, in the critical game, Rajon Rondo in that fourth quarter against the Lakers, he wasn't on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not hating on Rondo. Rondo's a friend. But, there has to be a cutoff point. There has to be a cutoff point. Now, am I that cutoff point? But there's always going to be somebody that you can discuss that might possibly be there. But there has to be somebody. There has to be a point like you get to a place,
right?
And they say we got 300 people. That's capacity. The fire department standing out there. They count 300 people. You can't have 301.
Right.
That's it. Now, same thing when I think about the Hall of Fame. There's a criteria that I look for. Michael Cooper won multiple championships with the Lakers. Michael Cooper was never an all-star. He was a great defensive player. I don't know if Michael Cooper ever averaged more than 8 to 10 points a game. I don't think Michael Cooper has 10,000 points for his career. So if somebody wants to argue that point, please help me out.
Yeah.
But, again, there has to be a point where everything is cut off.
Well, that's why I brought the question about if this is a popularity thing, because, I mean, let's face it, when Rajon was put in ideal situations or so, it looked great, whether it was here in Boston with the Big Three era or whether it was in LA when he teamed up with LeBron James. But in between, Max, the guy couldn't stay around in any city.
Well, how about when
New Orleans, the Sacramento, the Chicago, you know what I mean? Like, so did that play a part?
How about Dallas?
The Dallas, yeah. Well, that's what I mean, Max. Like,
Dallas was a mess.
Yeah, no one would sign him to beyond a year because they had to wait and see if he was gonna, what version of Rondo might appear, So I think there's a lot to be said about that. I think he's an interesting case when you look at the other side of things in terms of, like, again, if it's a popularity thing, was he a great teammate or whatever? I don't know, whatever people have in their mind when they're making these decisions, because I feel like everyone's trying to figure it out. Like, what's the grand?
All right, let's use another name since you're saying that. Let's use Antoine Walker's name. Hall of Famer. How many points? Antoine got a ton of points.
Yeah.
He won the championship. He was an all-star.
Selection as well.
He was all-star maybe 5 or 6 times. I mean, again, there has to be a certain level where you stop things. I mean, One of the things I looked at in Milwaukee, Vin Baker, who was a great player for the Milwaukee Bucks, doesn't have his number retired. Glenn Robinson, big dog, doesn't have his number retired. Milwaukee, Ray Allen, that's where he started. Number not retired. Is there a level? Where do you go? Well,
they're about to just give it to Giannis, yo. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a great point, man. They don't retire anybody. It's like, damn, man. They trying, what's going on?
I mean, but no, they do. They do have some numbers. Like,
no, I'm saying the last 20 years or so. Those guys you just mentioned.
My friend who does the radio, does television, John McLaughlin. John McLaughlin was a very good shooter for Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, John, you've never an all-star, but they can say the same thing about Cedric Maxwell. Being with the Celtics, I was never all-star, never was going to be an all-star because you're playing constantly with guys who were all-stars.
Right.
So you had to be and I never consider myself as a role player because I always consider myself as I was a bus driver. I wasn't a bus rider. And you look at situations you're in, you think about how guys perform and what they've done over their careers, and you understand. Look, how about this? Draymond Green is going to be a Hall of Famer. Yes? No?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Multiple defensive player of the year.
He was a bus driver for sure.
He would, but people would say he was a bus rider. They wouldn't say he was a bus driver because you were passing the ball to Clay, you were passing the ball to Steph. But is he a Hall of Famer? Yes, he's a Hall of Famer under a different criteria of how the game is being played. He was a great defender. He was he was a cog in what they do offensively and making passes. Very good, a smart player. But the Hall of Fame is taking on a different look than the Hall of Fame I remember when I'm thinking about bringing players, because I look at the Hall of Fame as the elite of the elite. That's the Hall of Fame to me. And I just don't see – I see guys who weren't the elite of the elite coming to Hall of Fame. Magic, Hall of Famer. James Worthy, Hall of Famer. Kareem, Hall of Famer. I look at those names, I go, yeah, absolutely. But Byron Scott also played with him. Hall of Famer? No. I mean, just the elite of the elite.
I just feel like everyone's got their own criteria, man. So we don't.
And that's the bad point about it. Everybody has their own criteria for what should be when there has to be a certain criteria which has to be met. Right. I don't hate on my man Dino Roger. Dino Roger's in the Hall of Fame with the Boston Celtics. The international version. You know,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to remember that. Yeah.
Basketball. Should I just say right now, go back, get my birth certificate, say I'm from France or something? Would I be a Hall of Famer then? I mean,
he was playing over there. That's what they mean, Max. Anything, Max.
I understand.
As a broadcaster, you know, you got to
understand what they mean. But I'm not, again, it's a part of it now has become more of a popularity contest than it has to be with guys who you go down the line and said, do you think this guy should be one? Hell, I didn't think for a while. I wasn't convinced that Dennis Rodman should have been one. Doc Rivers said, you're crazy. He said, Dennis Rodman needs to be a Hall of Famer because he was all defensive team. He was one of the greatest rebounders of all time.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it. And then I started thinking about the numbers and what he's put up. And I going, yeah. Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Ben Wallace growing up.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm not sure if Ben Wallace could score 10 points if he was in the gym by himself. But defensively, he was a hell of a player. He anchored what they did. He anchored what they did.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna say that, is Rip Hamilton? Is he a Hall of Famer? Because it becomes a popularity contest.
Yeah, it does.
Do you think Rip Hamilton's a Hall of Famer?
I don't know, Max. I think I'd have to look at his numbers, but the fact, gun to the head, have to answer, I'd probably say no. But again, I have to look at his numbers,
So
we'll see.
Nothing negative being said, but it's just, this is my opinion. This is Cedric. Yeah. If you want to come to Cedric Maxwell, this is my opinion.
Right. I mean, hey, we keep it 100 here, man. It's the part of the podcast.
That's what we keeping it right now on the 100.
All the way.
I mean, you think about a guy like Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas has scored a ton of points in this league. Was multiple All-Star.
Top 3 scoring for years and years, yeah.
But it's all right. Was he a Hall of Famer? World Beat Free almost led his league in scoring a couple of years. Was he a Hall of Famer? So I think the criteria for the Hall of Fame has really changed.
No, it has. And these debates will continue on and on. But Max, you bring up a good point, man. I mean, you could be like, I think seeing this happen, seeing Coop go in, it's got to open a conversation for you, Max. You know? Come on. 2-time champion, finals MVP. And again, you still got the broadcaster route, but also as a player, because again, if you put Coop in it, we got a debate here. We got a legit debate here. But we'll see. We'll see what people say. Because that's what happens, right? They control the narrative. The fans out there, OGs, the talking head. That's another thing too. The retired players that come out and start saying what they think about all this. Not right away. They'll let it marinate for a few weeks or a couple of months, and then they'll say what they got to say. Because the induction not until September, so we got all summer. Anyways, as we say, we'd be doing you guys a disservice if we didn't keep it 100. So that's what we do here.
Damn it, though.
Right at the end.
On it.
We had to say this right at the end. So I appreciate you guys, of course, as always, for listening, for watching, for subscribing to the Cedric Maxwell podcast. We got a really fun couple of interviews lined up here between now and the end of the regular season. I know the Boston Celtics are sort of in a scrimmage, and you won't see a whole lot of competitive basketball between now and the season. But over here, man, we got plenty of content for you guys. So we're
gonna switch it up a little bit these next couple of weeks since the Celtics are so far ahead. I met the great Emerson Walls, who played for the Dallas Cowboys, and big basketball fan. But he's also going to talk about football because we'd like to know what he thinks about Belichick not being hired, who the Cowboys should take, who the Pats should take right now. Yeah, who the Pats might want to take with the 3rd pick. So we can get some content there, and wink, wink. We're going to have Grant Williams on, and there's been lot of stuff being said by Grant Williams.
Oh, we got a lot to talk about, Max.
Mike Gorman was on talking about Grant, and I had a chance to talk to Grant down in Charlotte. Got his number and said, yo, man, I need you on my podcast. And Grant said, sure, Max, I'll come on. So look forward to having him open the next couple of weeks.
We got 2 of North Carolina's finest ballers coming on the show, man. Perfect. Stay tuned. that's a wrap. We'll see you guys next week. I'm Josue Pavon. He is Cedric Maxwell. We'll see you guys.